I'm back! Yay! And we have a late winter storm forming in the plains over the next couple of days. And then we're going to probably have another cold front marching along to the east. In the meantime, the rain has come to an end, at least for now. We'll go through all the watches and warnings, talk about where we're headed longer term, and a few other subjects of importance, all tonight on the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast, which of course you can support by shopping on Amazon using our referral link at the top of the chat board or on the description of this podcast. Just do your shopping from that link, and Amazon throws us back a little bit of coin for sending you there. It doesn't cost you 1 cent. All you got to do is click the link and shop. And we appreciate it because it helps to keep commercials out of the show. And we definitely send big thank yous to those of you who have shopped our Amazon referral link. You don't realize this, but when you lose power for 16 hours and you lose the internet for basically 36 hours, God, was I bored.
Yeah. Well, that's happened here. We know the feeling. There's nothing you can really do about it. Uh,
No,
I I had suggested, at least in terms of now, this happened in the late. I mean, on the cusp of the beginning of the spring season, and where you are down south, it's not really that awful a situation if you lose power now. But up here, we've lost our power in January and February during the cold winter months. And I tell you, Joe, if you don't have a generator for those extended periods where there's no power, you're doomed.
oh
you
yeah, no question, no question. Well, I'm going to kind of rethink the idea of maybe getting a generator. I'll have to see. It was pretty expensive though when they priced it out for me a couple of years ago, but that was during COVID. I'm gonna maybe try to price it out again and see what they come up with. But uh, the storms here Saturday night. Now we had that severe weather event 10 days before this one, which I thought personally was a lot worse, but that's me. But uh, this time around, Union County here in North Georgia has about 16,000 people, roughly. There were almost 15,000 outages of homes and businesses. And that's just this particular county. All surrounding counties um, equally affected. So I actually was a little surprised at how quick the power did come back at the end of the day, considering what had happened. But it's not only the outages, but they also had miles and miles of power lines. I think 35 telephone poles came down, and they had to fix them one at a time. It was tough, but um, you know, nothing like what they had in Missouri and in other places in the South. I looked at the count, Joe. Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, 120 tornadoes over that 3 day
oh,
span.
wow.
Yeah.
We thought about in 1974 the so-called super outbreak. I think we only had with that one maybe like 40 or 50 tornadoes, and here we are talking now not in double figures but triple figures. It's incredible.
Yeah, that was this one. This weekend was something. Well, you kind of knew when SPC on Friday went to a high risk for Saturday, and that's only the third time in the last 25 years that SPC put a high risk in their day two forecast. And actually, by the way, it turned out that there were more tornadoes the day before uh, in the ones that hit Missouri. There were more tornadoes on that night than there were on Saturday. But nonetheless, either way, I mean, the storms were terribly fierce when they went by, and I don't know how much rain I got. I saw that the rivers were pretty full, so because my weather station, I have a Tempest weather station, and it of course once the electricity go once the internet goes out, it stops. It doesn't work. So I had about an inch and a third when I lost power at 10 o'clock at night on Saturday, and then it rained virtually the whole night. So I'm thinking from some of my friends who have manual rain gauges that they all said they had about 3 to 4 inches of rain. That's probably what we wound up with.
Well, regardless, it's all over now, and it looks like we've got, well, at least a couple of days of tranquility before we have to gear up for the next round of unsettled weather coming our way for later on in the week. And then I think one thing that has not yet been specifically highlighted this week, Joe, is the fact that on Friday I could foresee a very, underscore that word, very windy day.
Yeah,
I would be surprised if we had wind advisories or wind warnings up for much of the tri-state area on Friday to finish out this week. But before we get that, again, a couple of nice days coming up for tomorrow and for Wednesday.
yeah, and that, by the way, the stuff that moved through you by you last night, at least over when it got to over Long Island, it really gelled up. I mean, I can't tell you how many pictures I got from people who had their fences all knocked down with 50 to 60 mile an hour wind gusts.
Yeah, well, we're very happy that I'm very happy that we did not lose power. I had a very important Zoom meeting at around 11:30 today, and I had to tell the person yesterday. I said, if I'm not there at 11:30, rest assured it's not because I'm ignoring you. It's because I probably lost power. Fortunately, that did not happen. At least it didn't happen this go around. We'll see what happens down the road.
Gotcha. All right, welcome to everybody on the chat board tonight, and for those of you watching in the background, welcome to tonight's Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast. Normally, we are here Sunday through Thursday at 7:35 p.m., but we weren't here last night because of my lack of electricity. And by the way, I discovered I have a relatively new refrigerator and a deep freeze. It's amazing that with the power out that long, I didn't open the doors at all, and when I did, the fridge was still pretty cold,
Yeah,
and a freezer. You got stuff in a freezer if you don't open it up, especially if you have a new um, freezer or refrigerator. I mean, they're so airtight. They can go out, if you can go 48 to 72 hours without having any, serious problems. Everything in there in my freezer was, I mean, it was as solid as stone. So that was good. Didn't lose anything. Anyway, subscribe to my YouTube channel, turn your notifications on, and if you like the show, hit the like button. And Johnny Quest bangs the tip jar tonight. Um, uh, Thank you, Johnny. And Johnny says, "Can you explain a hodograph and what it does?" Joe, can you explain a hodograph?
um, difficult to do in just a few sentences here. If you want to give me about a minute, I can probably try to think a way of mentioning it. I was certainly aware of it. You can get photographs on the internet if you care to. So give me a moment to think this over.
Okay, well, that works for me. So hang on, Johnny. As brilliant as we are, sometimes certain things we don't know because we seldom, if ever, use these, this sort of stuff. But no matter. Joe will look it up, and in the meantime, I will go through the watches and warnings tonight because there are aplenty. We have flood watches that are back up for parts of north central New York as the snow melt there continues. And the next storm system, this one's going to be forming in the plains. So we have winter storm watches up from south central Nebraska, northeast to the upper peninsula of Michigan. All that red flag warnings for potential for fire in bone dry conditions with strong winds, perfect ingredients to if somebody drops a match in the wrong spot, you got a problem. Also for central and south Florida under red flag warnings at for tonight. We have winter storm warnings in parts of Wyoming and southern Montana, a couple of counties in western South Dakota, advisories into western Colorado and up and down the middle of Utah. Also in the Sierra Nevadas, we have winter storm warnings and winter weather advisories there, and continues northward in Oregon and the Cascades. Lots of wind advisories and lots of high wind watches that have been posted in the southwestern part of the U.S. And as we check out the satellite loop, which for some reason is missing frames, I don't know why that is, but okay, I fixed it. Uh, this weather front, the European last week was trying to show this front stalling out while the GFS was marching it along, and the European wound up pretty much nailing this. The front slowed down, and as a result, areas east of New York City picked up a fair amount of rain and on up into southern New England. And the clouds offshore are still moving south to north. The eastward progression is pretty much at a crawl.
And that was the story over the weekend was, will the rain persist into the day on Monday and spoil the St. Patrick's Day parade? And actually, we did have some light rain and drizzle into the first part of Monday, but by midday, it looks like for the most part everything had quit in at least New York City and began to dry out some. So it could have been worse, obviously, if things had slowed down a bit more, but at least it wasn't a terrible day. The worst of it again came in the overnight hours last night. That's when we saw the heavy rainfall. I mean, right here in the Hudson Valley, we had about what? Again, about 1.5 inches of rain. And as you pointed out, Joe, more rain as you headed eastward toward Connecticut and especially central and eastern Long Island.
By the way, the southern part of this front is going to see a low develop on it and move to the east. And the Hurricane Center, Joe, has an X out there. It's not even the end of March. And they actually wrote a tropical weather outlook on this. Non-tropical area of low pressure 700 miles northeast of the northern Leeward Islands, producing gale force winds, disorganized clouds and showers and thunderstorms. Additional development of this low is not expected as it moves north to north-northwest into an environment of strong upper level winds and dry air. Surprise, surprise. I'm actually surprised that they even mentioned it.
You know, these tropical outlooks have become or been getting earlier and earlier in the calendar with each passing year, and yeah, this is about as early as you usually will get. Don't worry, all of you tropical storm fans out there, things will be picking up in the coming weeks and months. But yeah, it's a little bit on the early side for me, and I'm sure for you too, Joe.
Yeah, in months. Don't want to deal with any, don't want to have an early season system out there, and then all the conspiracy theories starts to get drum up. Radar tonight. We've got still a little bit of rain left in southeastern New England. You can see the heaviest is it's just sort of skimming Cape Cod and actually over southeastern Mass and Cape Cod with a few heavier downpours about to go through there too. Again, that's a very slow eastward progress. Also, the slow motion has left some rain in eastern North Carolina, but the rest of the east is pretty dry. We've got a little bit of snow going on in the upper peninsula of Michigan and on the Canada side of the lakes. And out in the west, the radars are busy with moisture coming in from the Pacific. We even have a severe thunderstorm warning box up there in Northern California that's popped up. So that's more energy coming in, and we're going to start to see this redevelop in the plains and get another storm system that's going to form out there. The Storm Prediction Center, I'm going to jump right to tomorrow, where they have a marginal risk for severe weather from eastern Nebraska and across Iowa, but no tornado risk at the moment. And on day 3, and this is Wednesday into Thursday, we have a marginal to slight risk. And you notice the comma shape of the outline of the severe weather area. So that kind of tells you that we have a strongish system. It's not going to be like what we just had over the weekend, but we are going to have a bit of a deepening low that's going to be running from the plains to the western lakes. So we have a marginal to slight risk, the slight risk in eastern Illinois and western Indiana. It's tomorrow, SPC will put up the tornado risk in there. So I'm guessing that there'll probably be at least a 2% tornado risk and indicated, and maybe even an area of 5%. I would like to point out that in the long range on day 7, okay, on day 7, which is going to be Sunday into next Monday. The Storm Prediction Center has already indicated a implied 15% slight risk in southeast Oklahoma, Arkansas, central and northern Mississippi, northern Louisiana, and northeast Texas. So this, the rule, folks. If SPC's got something in the long range, it's probably a good idea to pay attention to it. So we'll see how this evolves in the coming days. Uh, I didn't see anything on the guidance that would suggest another, mammoth outbreak like we saw this weekend. But I'm just going to let it play out over the next couple of days to see how this all moves ahead.
Yeah, and again, as I mentioned at the start of the show, Friday it could be a problematic day because we could be looking at very windy conditions. There's going to be some kind of a storm probably developing somewhere. Oh, it looks like Joe near the vicinity of down East Maine on Friday morning, and as it slowly moves away, it will intensify rather rapidly, and the gradient is going to increase rather rapidly over our part of the country during Friday. And again, we could be looking at winds, sustained winds, 20 to 30 miles an hour from the north and northwest, and maybe gusts to over 40 and 50 miles an hour. So, something to keep an eye on for the end of the week. Not thunderstorms, not tornadic activity or severe weather, but just a good old fashioned windstorm for the Northeast as we close out this week on Friday. I want to get back to the question that was posed by somebody on the chat board about the definition of a hodograph.
It was
And what was
Johnny,
confusing,
Johnny Quest.
what was confusing to me initially was I was confusing hodograph with meteograph or meteograph. Um, I sometimes look at the meteographs. If you ever go online and go to the Wyoming weather page, the Wyoming weather lab page, which gives all of the or provides a lot of the information, the moss information, foos and whatnot. They also provide what is called a meteograph or meteograph, and that's an instrument that automatically records multiple meteorological conditions such as temperature, barometric pressure, humidity, all simultaneously and also at the same time. But a hodograph is something different from a meteograph. A hodograph is a diagram that's used in weather, meteorology, to visualize the change in wind speed and direction as you ascend in altitude, as the changes that occur as you climb with height. And it reveals for pilots wind shear, vertical wind shear, which is crucial for understanding storm structure, evolution, and potential for severe weather like hurricanes and tornadoes. So, if you are dealing with a hodograph, again, that deals specifically with one category winds and how the winds are changing as you ascend in altitude through the atmosphere, as opposed to a meteograph, which is actually a compilation of all different meteorological conditions, temperature, humidity, wind, humidity, all at the same time.
All right. Well, that works for me. It's another thing I'll have to swear off. I thought you were going to go down the road and photograph with somebody that used to host the third hour of the Today Show.
Oh no, please. And the Hoda just recently retired, right? Hmm.
Yes, yes. Not that I ever watched anyway, but that's me. All right, WPC.
I haven't watched the Today Show since Hugh Downs left.
Yeah,
That
yeah,
shows
I
you how
know,
long
right?
ago that.
Uh, WPC's got a half to three quarters of an inch of liquid over the next 7 days, from actually even heavier in said down East Maine, but Other than that, from Maine down to Delaware and Maryland, parts of Virginia, across the Ohio Valley, the Great Lakes. We've got a few patchy areas of an inch and a half, a little bit less in the Carolinas. Also, some inch and a half liquid amounts in northern Iowa into Wisconsin and into the upper peninsula of Michigan. Some of that's going to be in the form of snow. Um, some hefty precip in the Rockies and in the Wasatch, and very heavy precip, several to many inches in the Pacific Northwest for the next 7 days. And as far as snow is concerned, this is the probability for at least, I put one. Let's do four. Let's do the probability for at least four. And this is ending some 2 a.m. Thursday. So from eastern Nebraska, pretty much where they have the winter storm watches up, from eastern Nebraska northeastward to the upper peninsula of Michigan, you've got a fairly large northeast southwest oriented area of probability for at least four of at least 50%, and in some cases it's 80% or higher. So going forward, as we take a look at all of this mess that we're in, let's look at the upper air first. And we have this trough along the east coast. The southern part of that trough is stronger. But by the way, here today, which was a lovely sunny day, got down to the mid 30s last night after reaching near 70 ahead of the thunderstorms Saturday night, and only got to barely broke 50 here this afternoon. It was a pretty cold day. I walked out while you were talking, Joe, because I had to get some water and turn off the fireplace because I had the fireplace going. Uh, that trough is going to cut off in a big way uh, midway between the Carolinas and Bermuda, and that's part of that whole subtropical thing that we kind of showed you a little while ago. And in the meantime, here comes the next trough in the west, which does cut off to some extent. Anytime I see these short waves coming out of the Rockies and Plains, if they start to cut off in a vigorous way, this is usually, this is your signal for a severe weather threat. The only thing that'll probably hold it back is the fact that there's so much cold, dry air that's funneled down into the southeast and in the Gulf states at the moment that there's probably not a whole lot of time for the warm tropical air to kind of surge up northward. So that may limit the amount of severe weather, but nonetheless, it is worth keeping an eye on with this vigorous upper low here that moves eastward. And then when it reaches the East Coast, it cuts off again right over New York City and Long Island and southeastern New England on Friday. So I kind of understand what you're getting at with respect to the wind potential, particularly this time of year when the sun is so strong and you get a lot of mixing that gets involved. You certainly have a recipe here for some strong wind gusts. That gets kicked out of the way. And then as we move it through the weekend and into next week, more troughing in the east and ridging in the west, oddly enough. The pattern going forward, by the way, after this, we pass through the quote unquote first day of spring, actually has a
Turns
colder
cooler.
look to it when you get into the longer range to some extent. Uh, with this deep trough that's coming into the eastern part of the United States around the 24th through the 26th. Just going to back up one run here and take a look, because then we go into a bit of a ridge position. And then a trough wants to drop back down into the western part of the United States as we move into the first part of April. So I don't know if it's anything sustained here. I think it's probably going to be more along the lines of, shots of cold air that come in with these strong systems moving through across the U.S. You chill down for a couple of days or a day or so, and then you're going to have to deal with the next approaching front. But the pattern does look busy enough.
Yeah, Tom Contino is asking me with that deep cold trough, can I see rain turning to snow? I'm not really sure if we can get that cold. I'm more concerned at the end of the week in terms of the wind. And when you showed the upper air, Joe, you had the upper low like virtually on top of us by 18Z or 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Friday. Once the surface low and the upper low gets to our east, we have a teleconnection, and that's when the winds are going to be blowing from the north northwest, both at the surface and also aloft, and that's when we really will begin to see the winds really start to climb during the afternoon hours on Friday. Friday may start out okay, have a bit of precipitation maybe lingering early in the day, but by the afternoon, I think we'll be seeing drying and clearing and a return to sunshine, but also an increase, a very rapid increase in the winds. Incidentally, it's going to be a rapid increase, but it's not going to be a prolonged increase. Um, while we'll have more than a few hours of windy conditions here on Friday, I think by Saturday a lot of the wind will have diminished because we'll have a ridge of high pressure building rapidly in from the west, and so that should provide us with not only sunshine but also a dramatic diminution of, if you will, of the strong winds that we may be subjected to later on Friday and Friday night.
The energy that's coming into California now is going to reform in the Central Plains, just like the one last week, where it starts out as a low underneath 990 millibars. So does this one, and you see the tight gradient across Nebraska and western Kansas. I mean, that gradient is super tight. Look at that. I mean, they're going to blow away there on the west side of that low, and that low just kind of deepens and goes up into northwestern Illinois. So you get that hook again that comes around that comma shape, and you can see the European does generate what will probably be showers and thunderstorms and some embedded severe weather. Although, again, it doesn't look nearly as aggressive as what we just saw. Then the low moves up and goes way to our north and west, into northern Michigan, into Canada. But the front and the trough move east, and it's gonna be just like this one, where the front's gonna hold together. We'll probably have some showers moving through the east on Thursday. Maybe the chance for some heavier thunderstorms in Virginia and the Carolinas. And then it moves out. You get another surface low that forms. So I guess we have to look for the possibility that maybe it lingers a little bit, but also, if you're looking for a change over to snow, maybe if you go up to northernmost Connecticut, Vermont, New Hampshire, and into Maine, you'll probably see it there. I know the GFS last night on one run had it changing all the way down to like Delaware, which was just ridiculous. And then that goes out. We still have another front that's going to come through on Saturday with a shot of colder air for Sunday into Monday, and then more Pacific energy coming east. Here's another system for early next week that wraps up into the Great Lakes and brings an arm of rain and showers up the coast. And then that goes out. It turns colder behind it. And now we're getting close to April 1st, which, if the models are correct and we go into a ridge position in the eastern part of the United States, it's going to warm up quite a bit. So, that's I think that's pretty much how it's going to play. We're in that time of year where severe weather is going to become a bigger and bigger deal. There's a little, March is usually that first month of severe weather. This one got off to a bang, I think.
No question. No question. And of course, we see in March and especially in April those scenarios where we have these upper systems passing through. What is the terminology that we used a year or two back? The V shape in
Yeah,
the atmosphere, where you got these sharp troughs or these sharp fronts moving through, and you get these cold air pools of cold air passing on by, which lead to pea-sized hail and sudden strong wind gusts. We may very well see some of that in the coming days and weeks ahead.
by the way, they're still updating these SPC storm reports. So this one was from the 14th. So this was last Friday. 70 tornadoes 70 tornadoes and 500, I don't know what it's got, 560-13. I'm not sure what exactly that means. 560 is probably 560 or 566. I can't, it's 560. A total of 939 uh, severe weather reports that they got, but 70 tornadoes. And then for Saturday, we had 55. So I counted from them was 120. So now we're up to for the 3 day period, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So now it's 125 for Friday and Saturday. And Sunday, yesterday, there were seven. So, so we're talking 132 now is the number instead of 120. So 132 tornadoes that occurred in the Friday, Saturday, Sunday time frame. And you noticed that yesterday, most of the severe weather reports were in West Virginia, the western half of Pennsylvania, and the western half of New York State, also into eastern Ohio. Some scattered reports down in Virginia and North Carolina, none in South Carolina, and a few in southeast Georgia. So uh, very much a busy 3 days of severe weather. So
Very
anyhow,
busy, very busy at SPC. I'm wondering, don't want to make this sound political, but I'm just wondering if anybody, I think it probably was just the probationary people, but I'm wondering how many people at SPC in Oklahoma were laid off with the recent events of,
that I don't know. I don't know.
certainly the wrong time to do it. And yet this past weekend was certainly a case in point in that. And of course, now looming ahead of us is the hurricane season, and we can only hope we don't have too active a hurricane season. What with all that's been happening of late over at NOAA and NWS.
All right, so let's do a little bit of Thriller Jeopardy, shall we?
Surely,
Okay, so since we're talking severe weather, let's see how smart the chat board is because they're usually very smart, very smart. The 10 states that recorded the most tornadoes in 2024, and if you can name them in alphabetical order, then Joe and I will be really impressed. But the 10 states, Joe, that recorded the most tornadoes in 2024. Um, okay, I'm going to try to get everybody here. So, uh, Florida says Mark D42, and yes, Florida is one, but not number one. They were number six. And Tyler Fenga with Texas and Jason Fox. Texas is the number one answer. Texas is number one. Tom Contino says Kansas. Kansas is number nine. Number nine. Vincent Croce, Alabama. Alabama did not make the top 10 list. Did not make the top 10, but John Menendez's Oklahoma did at number eight. Number
can I
eight.
throw can I throw one out?
Oh, by all means, please do.
Iowa.
Iowa did number two, Joe. Number two was
Wow.
Iowa. Number two. And Jason Fox and Lakeville 500 say Nebraska. Nebraska is number three. Number three. Okay. Uh, let's see. Oh, Nathan Stauffer, number 10, Ohio. Ohio was number 10. So I think we've got one, two, and three were mentioned. Six, eight, and 10. So there's still a couple of more here. Chuck
Didn't we
Cardillo,
mention?
Arkansas did not make the list.
Didn't we
Arkansas
say
did
that?
not make the list.
Didn't we say that Kansas was number 9?
Oh, yes, we did. Kansas was number nine. Yes. And Rich Rothmansky mentions Missouri. Missouri, number five. Number five.
Poplar Bluff, Missouri, got hit very hard over the weekend, um, and I feel for them. I did a couple of talks for the library in Poplar Bluff because they were right in the middle of the solar eclipse path last April, and here they are now, less than a year later, getting hit with another natural weather event, natural event. Uh, Certainly not in the same category as a solar eclipse. So.
Well, there are two states left, Joe, and I can tell you one of those states that's not on the list is the one that James Davidson names, North Carolina. North Carolina is not on the list, nor is Tyler Fienga's Mississippi. Is not on the list. Firefighter Jimmy 132 says Tennessee, and you know what? Tennessee is not on the list. There are only two left. Two left. So I will review in case anybody missed it. Number 10 is Ohio. Number 9, Kansas. Number 8, Oklahoma. Number 7 has not been mentioned yet. Number 6, Florida. Number 5, Missouri. Number 4 has not been mentioned. Number 3, Nebraska has been mentioned. 2, Iowa. 1, Texas. So 4 and 7, Joe. 4 and 7.
Is either Illinois or Indiana one of
Well,
those two?
Earth Shield gets it with Illinois. Illinois. Indiana, no. Illinois, yes. And there's one state left that no one's mentioned. One state left that no one has mentioned. And I would think that you would have probably, somebody would have mentioned this state. Well, Rich Rothmansky, you asked the question. No, it wasn't mentioned. Louisiana was not mentioned. Is that your pick, sir? Are you mentioning it now? I'm waiting. Not Wisconsin. Nathan Stauffer, Wisconsin, not on the list. Rich Rothmansky has really committed himself now because he wrote it in capital letters, Joe. Louisiana. Louisiana is number 7. That was the missing state. Louisiana. And
Which
that's
of course, you were employed there for a short while.
3 years.
Was there ever an outbreak of tornadic activity that happened while you?
Um, Not in where I was in New Orleans, but that was always. I did go through one of the worst. I think the worst thunderstorm I have ever gone through in my entire life. At 11 o'clock in the morning, the sky. When I say it turned black, it was black. Okay, and it was the street lights all came on. It was dark as it was. It was like it was nighttime, and it was the lightning, the thunder was indescribable, indescribable or undescribable.
And you haven't
It was crazy. It was really crazy.
and you haven't seen anything like that remotely like that since.
Not like that. Lightning struck the TV station and burned out all our weather equipment.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I mean that's how that was not pretty. It was really I mean when you open the door, when you go out, you went out to the front of the building and opened the door, it was and you were like walking into a black fog. It was something like again, I've never seen anything quite like it. That hour of the day, it was crazy.
I remember in August of 1992 on Long Island. I don't know how many of you are on the chat board who are from Long Island and longtime residents. August of 92, there was something which, well, similar to what you're describing. In fact, to me, it was almost like an eclipse of the sun. The sky actually did get black,
Yeah.
and it was really frightening for a short while. And it happened, Joe, just a little after 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And the next day, on the front page of Newsday, there was the headline 5 o'clock shadow.
Not really. I don't remember that. You think I would have remembered that? I don't remember that. Well, I lived in Suffolk County, so it's quite possible that by the time it got to Suffolk County, it was nowhere. You were in Nassau.
Right.
Yeah. So, although I do remember a thunderstorm in May where a lightning bolt hit my front lawn and fried everything in my house. Had to
Boy,
get a new Had to get a new stove, new fridge, new TV, fried everything. It almost fried me.
Well, well, the last thing you want to do is be near some sort of an electrical
Well, I was
something.
standing outside on my front stoop watching it. It actually came in from the north, from Connecticut, and moved southward. And it
Yeah.
was in the morning. And, lightning bolts are shooting back and forth, sideways as it approaches. And suddenly I felt my hair stand on end. And I went into the house. And the minute I shut the screen door was when the lightning bolt hit my front lawn. It was crazy. It was crazy. So anyway, you got anything else to talk about from how was your weekend? Everything went good? Life is
No,
good?
I spent the weekend waiting for you.
Yes, right, you did. Tyler Fienga asked me, how did it burn the items inside your home? No, it struck my front lawn right near where the electrical lines that were underground, and it just sent a power surge through the whole house and just fried everything. And those were the days before surge protectors even existed. So it was it
Did you
was
hear?
uh, it was
Did you
something.
hear anything like? Did you hear anything like?
No, it just nothing worked anymore. It
Yeah,
all just fried everything.
yeah,
Yeah, it was interesting this weekend being with no TV and well, Saturday was for Sunday. No TV and no power. And the other thing was I really couldn't use my phone because I had no way except for my truck. I had no way to recharge it. So I actually went out for a drive yesterday for about an hour and a half, for the sole purpose of charging my phone, which I was able to do. And then I got home, and then around I don't know, it was maybe 5:30 or 6 o'clock. The power came back. So that was the toughest part,
yeah.
because I don't have a landline here. And you know what? If I had a landline, it wouldn't have worked anyway.
You know, you're back. We're thankful that you're back, and you always have that feeling of relief when you get your power and especially your internet back.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, yeah.
especially after a long stretch of not going. And up here, as I said to you yesterday, I said, we've gone 2, 3, 4 days sometimes without power, which is why I would suggest, at the very least, especially if it happens again during the wintertime, you ought to think about investing
Well,
in
you know
a.
what? I'm going to revisit it. I'm going to revisit the idea. Uh, Part of the issue that, the cost issue for me is the fact that I have to hook it up to my propane line. And that's what was going to cost a lot of money. Was hooking it up to the propane tank. It was almost as much to do that and as it would be just for the generator itself. But I'm going to check. I won't need anything big. I just need something. I just need enough, that my fridge runs and my freezer runs, and I can use my computer. But
Right.
uh,
Well, as I said to you yesterday, our generator, you know, during the wintertime, the burner, it turns on the burner and allows for heat to run through the house. And that, of course, is the most important thing. In the
right,
summer, we discovered, and we've only used it like once or twice during the summer. And during those times, we discovered that there's not enough wattage for it to run the central air conditioning. So, but that doesn't bother us because where I'm speaking to you right now, I'm in the basement, and we have the
right.
guest room on the other side on the other side here. We just go down here, and it's nice and cool in the basement.
Yeah,
As soon as
I in the winter. If I lose power here in the wintertime, I have a dual heating system, so I can just use the propane. I mean, I can turn the fireplace on, so I'm not going to be want for heat. Uh, but I got to tell you, the power company here does a really good job. And we've had the few outages that I've experienced here. They usually are done within an hour or so, so it's not a big deal. But these last two have been from pretty exceptional lines of thunderstorms that rolled by, and the one this just passed, took out the whole county. So so since yesterday, when they started the day with almost 15,000, I actually checked. I checked the website um, to see how many people were still without power. It was down to three. It was down to three people. So
I know
they
that
did a.
Tom Cortino. I think you misunderstand. I think Renata is telling you an automatic generator. Um, it's not $12,000 or $10,000. Certainly nothing along the lines of that. I think she's talking about watts. Um, well, maybe an automatic maybe she's right. An automatic generator, the kind that will come on as soon as your power,
Yeah.
shuts down. That will that
Well,
yeah
that's
that
what I was looking. That's what I was looking at. Was an automatic one,
no.
and, and it was good.
The one that we have to go outside. We have to roll it out and then plug it in and then play with our circuit board, our the circuit breakers. That's so it doesn't go on. I mean, we have to do it ourselves as soon as we lose power.
Does it run
But
on gasoline?
yes,
It runs on gasoline. See, I was looking at an automatic generator that
yeah,
just, which was going to cost me about 10 grand with the installation. But
right,
anyway, like I said, I will revisit the issue.
right.
And then supposedly, I was told yesterday that if you do get a generator, the homeowners get a disc. If you get an automatic generator, you do get a discount on your homeowner's insurance.
Well, I'm sure that would be the case. But what I'm saying here is, if you really insist upon getting the automatic generator for 9, 10, $12,000, that's one thing. But you can also go cheaper with the
With a
kind of
gasoline, right?
you roll that out, and a lot of people around here have that. And again, it's not that expensive in that case. But
Yeah,
again, it's your choice.
yeah. Well, I'm going to think about it, like I said, um, and I'll look into it. I have a few things going on this week medically. I have, well, not a few things. I have one thing because you had a colonoscopy. I have to have one too.
Yes.
So, so mine is Thursday. Mine is Thursday. So Thursday morning. So which means I will be prepping on Wednesday night during the Joe and Joe Weather Show podcast.
Okay.
Okay. Well, you did the same
Been,
thing.
been there, done
When you
that.
was yours in the morning? Was yours the first thing
Yes.
in the morning?
Yes.
Because mine's at 7:30 in the morning.
Well, mine
So
was at 10:30, but in any case, and I don't know if this is what your doctor had said, 5 hours before I'm to take the second dose of the lemon soda and take knock down the with the laxatives to try to get the last of whatever's going to come out to come out.
five
So
hours before.
5 hours before, so I had to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and do all of that in preparation for the actual procedure,
Well, I
which was
got mine's supposed to be at 7:30, so I'm probably will just do it before I go to bed.
yeah.
And hopefully, I don't have to wake up in the middle of the night. But no matter. Anyway, this is the reality, folks. When you get to a certain age, these are the sorts of things you do, and then you talk about them with friends
Yes.
over dinner.
Well, I'm sure you'll give us all a blow by blow, so to speak, on Thursday.
All right, yes, Patrick Darcy, it's a holy crap. I will do that. All right, so everybody, I guess you got through the weekend all in one piece, and that's a good thing. Thank you for the 87 likes tonight, and thank you, Johnny Quest, for banging the tip jar. Thank you for hitting super chat. So we'll see you everybody tomorrow night at the usual time, 7:35. Righto.
Good night, all.
Night.